She is nothing to me. I, Kael of Valdris, Alpha King of the North, reject you. The scar on her shoulder burned like it always did when she remembered. You will regret this, brother. She is not yours to claim. Watch me. Of all the wounds she carried, his was the one that never healed. 3 years she had survived without him. 3 years of silence, of shadows, of learning to breathe with half a soul. And now, as the music played and another man's hands rested on her waist, she felt it. That familiar pull. That monstrous tether she could never sever. He was here. And the fury radiating from across the hall told her everything she needed to know. The Alpha King had finally found what he had thrown away. The servants' quarters were still dark when Alira opened her eyes that morning, her body already aching from yesterday's labor. She lay still for a moment, staring at the stone ceiling, counting the cracks she had memorized over 3 years of exile. 17 cracks. 17 reasons to keep breathing. She rose before the bell, as she always did. The other servants learned quickly not to question why the scarred woman with the dead eyes trained in the courtyard before dawn, why her movements carried the precision of someone who had once fought beside warriors instead of scrubbing their floors. The training grounds behind the servants' hall were little more than a patch of dirt and a wooden post wrapped in fraying rope. But it was enough. Alira drew the rusted blade she had stolen from the armory's discards and began. Strike, pivot, block, breathe. Her muscles remembered what her heart tried to forget. She had been trained by the finest swordmasters in Valdris. She had sparred with future generals, had earned her place among the elite guard before everything shattered. Strike, pivot, block. Do not think about him. The scar on her shoulder throbbed. It always did when her emotions slipped. The incomplete mark, the half-finished bond that Kael had started and never sealed, a permanent reminder that she had once belonged to someone who decided she was not worth keeping. You will break that post if you keep attacking it like it owes you money. Alira spun, blade raised, and found a young woman watching from the doorway. Nessa, one of the kitchen workers, with her perpetually flour-dusted apron and eyes that saw far too much. The post can handle it, Alira said, lowering her weapon. Can you? Nessa walked closer, her gaze dropping to Alira's shoulder where the scar peeked above her worn tunic. You were screaming in your sleep again last night. The whole corridor heard. Alira felt heat crawl up her neck. The dreams had been getting worse. Flashes of golden eyes, of hands that once held her like she was precious, of a voice whispering words that turned to poison. It was nothing. It was his name. Nessa's voice was soft, free of judgment. You called out for Kael. The name hit Alira like a physical blow. She turned away, driving her blade into the post with enough force to embed it 3 inches deep. Do not say that name here. He is just a man, Alira. He is the Alpha King. She yanked the blade free, her knuckles white around the hilt. And I am no one. That is the way he wanted it. That is the way it will stay. Nessa was quiet for a moment. Then she stepped closer, lowering her voice. Lord Everin arrives today, for the Summit of Territories. They say he specifically requested the Eastern Hall for the welcome feast, the one with the balcony overlooking the gardens. She paused. The one where the servants dance for entertainment. Alira's stomach dropped. No. Mistress Vela already put your name on the list. She says you moved too gracefully to waste on dishwashing. Nessa's eyes flickered with something between sympathy and warning. Every alpha in the realm will be there tonight, Alira. Every single one. The blade slipped from Alira's fingers, clattering against the dirt. Every alpha. Including him. I cannot. The words came out broken. Nessa, I cannot stand in that hall and let him see me like this. A servant, a nothing, dancing for scraps while he sits on his throne and pretends I never existed. Nessa gripped her arm, firm and steady. Then do not dance for scraps. Dance for yourself. Let him see what he destroyed. Let him choke on it. Alira met her friend's gaze, And somewhere beneath the terror, something else flickered. Not hope. She had buried hope long ago. This was darker. This was sharper. This was rage. Cliffhanger 1. Elyra will be forced to dance before the Alpha King who rejected her, and every Alpha in the realm will witness it. Cliffhanger 2. The incomplete mark on her shoulder still burns. The bond was never fully severed. What happens when they're in the same room? Elyra spent the rest of the morning in a haze, her hands moving through chores while her mind drifted to places she had forbidden it to go. She remembered the first time she saw Kyle. She was 16, a newly appointed trainee in the Royal Guard, and he was the crown prince who moved through the training grounds like a storm given flesh. His silver-black hair fell across eyes the color of molten amber, and when he fought, even the veterans stopped to watch. Elyra had been sparring with another trainee when her opponent's blade slipped past her guard, slicing her forearm. She had refused to cry out, refused to show weakness, but the blood was pouring fast enough to make her vision swim. Then he was there. Kyle, the prince everyone whispered about, kneeling in the dirt beside her with a strip of cloth torn from his own training tunic. "You dropped your guard on the left," he said, wrapping her wound with surprising gentleness. "Your instinct is to protect your heart." Admirable, but predictable. She had stared at him, unable to speak, certain she was dreaming. "Train with me tomorrow." He finished the knot and met her eyes. "I will teach you to protect everything." And he did. For 4 years, Kale trained her, challenged her, pushed her beyond every limit she believed she had. Somewhere between the bruises and the breakthroughs, between the late-night strategy sessions and the stolen moments in empty corridors, Elyra's heart decided it belonged to him. She never told him. She never had to. Kale looked at her the way no one else did, like she was not just a soldier but something rare, something worth protecting. On her 20th birthday, he found her alone in the moonlit garden behind the armory. "I have something for you," he said, his voice lower than usual. Elyra's breath caught as he stepped closer, his hand rising to brush the hair from her shoulder. "Kale, what are you—" "I am done pretending." His eyes burned into hers. "I am done watching you from across training grounds, done stealing moments that are never enough. You are mine, Elyra. You have always been mine. Let me mark you." The words shattered every wall she had built. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." When his teeth sank into the curve of her shoulder, the world exploded into sensation. She felt the bond begin to form, felt her soul reaching for his, felt everything she had ever wanted finally within her grasp. And then he stopped. Kale pulled back, his expression shifting from desire to something she could not read. He stared at her mark, half-formed and bleeding, and the color drained from his face. "Kyle?" She reached for him. "What is wrong?" He stepped away. One step, then another, and the distance between them became a chasm. This was a mistake. The words did not make sense. "What?" "I cannot do this, Elyra." His voice was ice where moments ago it had been fire. "I am to be Alpha King. The council has chosen my mate, a woman of proper bloodline, of political value. You are—" He swallowed. "You are not that." She felt the bond between them straining, incomplete, screaming for resolution. "You marked me. You chose me. I was weak." He would not look at her. "It will not happen again." 3 days later, Kale stood before the entire pack and spoke the words that destroyed her. "She is nothing to me. I, Kale of Valdris, Alpha King of the North, reject you. Elyra of no house, no bloodline, no worth. You are cast out from this pack. You will not return." Elyra had not begged. She had not cried. She simply walked through the silent crowd with her head high and her heart in pieces, carrying an incomplete mark that would burn for the rest of her life. That was 3 years ago. Now she stood in the servants' quarters of a foreign territory, preparing to dance for the man who had thrown her away. And somewhere deep inside her chest, The broken bond pulsed with a warning she could not ignore. He was close, and he was coming closer. Cliffhanger 3. The incomplete mark is reacting. Chaol is approaching. Cliffhanger 4. Why did Chaol truly stop the marking? What did he see that made him pull away? The Great Hall of Corinth was a masterpiece of ancient architecture, its vaulted ceilings carved with the histories of wolfkind, its walls lined with banners representing every territory in the realm. Torches burned in iron sconces, casting dancing shadows across the marble floor where the summit's welcome feast was about to begin. Elira stood in the corridor with the other servants chosen to perform, her hands trembling despite every effort to still them. "You look like you are about to face execution," Nessa whispered beside her. "That might be preferable." The doors opened and the sounds of the feast washed over them. Music, laughter, the clink of goblets, and the low rumble of powerful voices. Elira caught fragments of conversation as she was ushered inside. Valdris sent their full delegation. The Alpha King himself, can you believe? They say he still has not taken a mate, even after rejecting the council's choice. Elira's heart stuttered. He rejected the council's choice, the woman he had thrown her away for? She had no time to process this before a warm hand caught her elbow. "You must be the one Mistress Vela spoke of." Elira turned and found herself face to face with a man whose presence radiated calm authority. His hair was the color of burnished copper, his eyes a deep forest green, and his smile carried a warmth that seemed entirely out of place among the cold politics of the summit. "Lord Evren," she breathed, dropping into a hasty bow. "Please." He raised her gently. "No bowing. I despise formality." His eyes swept over her face with an interest that made her pulse quicken. "Vela said you were graceful, but she failed to mention you were also beautiful." Heat flooded Elira's cheeks. "My lord, I am just a servant." "You are a woman who moves like she was trained to fight wars." Evren tilted his head, studying her. "That is far more interesting than any title." He extended his hand. "Dance with me, not as entertainment, as my guest." Elira stared at his offered palm, her mind racing. This was the Alpha of Corinth, one of the most powerful territories in the realm, asking her to dance as an equal. I cannot." "You can." Evren stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I saw you in the courtyard this morning, training before dawn. I saw the fire in you that everyone else seems determined to ignore. One dance, Elira. Let them see what you truly are." How did he know her name? How long had he been watching? Before she could answer, the incomplete mark on her shoulder erupted with searing heat. Elira gasped, her hand flying to the scar. Evren's brow furrowed with concern, but she barely registered it. Because across the crowded hall, through the sea of bodies and banners and flickering torchlight, she felt him. Her eyes found Chaol without conscious thought. The Alpha King of Valdris stood frozen at the entrance of the great hall, his amber gaze locked onto her with an intensity that stopped her breath. He looked exactly as she remembered, and nothing like she remembered. Harder, colder. His jaw carved from granite, his eyes blazing with something between shock and fury. And then those eyes shifted to Evren's hand, still extended toward her. Elira watched the Alpha King's expression darken into something terrifying. And she made her choice. She placed her hand in Evren's. Cliffhanger 5. Elira has chosen to dance with Evren, right in front of Chaol. Cliffhanger 6. Chaol's fury is rising. The pack will feel it. What will he do? Cliffhanger 7. Evren has been watching her. Why? What does he want? The music shifted as Elira stepped into Evren's arms. A slower melody, intimate and deliberate, the kind that forced bodies close and made whispers possible. She could feel Chaol's gaze like a brand on her skin. The incomplete mark throbbed in rhythm with her heartbeat, a traitor pulse that screamed his name with every beat. "You are trembling," Evren murmured, his hand steady on her waist. "Is it fear or anticipation?" "Neither." Illyra forced her spine straight. It is cold. Liar. But he smiled when he said it, warm and knowing. The Alpha King has not stopped staring since you took my hand. Should I be concerned for my safety? You should be concerned for your judgment. Illyra met his eyes. Dancing with a disgraced servant will not win you allies at this summit. I am not here for allies. Evren guided her through a turn, positioning them so her back faced Kael, a deliberate shield. I am here for something far more valuable. Before Illyra could ask what he meant, a new voice sliced through the music. Lord Ivren, how generous of you to entertain the help. The woman who approached was stunning in the way a blade was stunning, all sharp edges and lethal beauty. Her gown was midnight silk that pooled like shadows at her feet. Her hair, black as raven feathers, cascaded over shoulders left deliberately bare to display the elegant curve of her neck. And on that neck, Illyra saw it, or thought she did. A faint scar in the same position as her own mark. But something about it looked wrong, too precise, too deliberate, as if it had been placed there rather than given. Lady Seraphine. Evren's voice cooled by several degrees. I was not aware you had arrived. I travel with the Valdris delegation now. Seraphine's ice-blue eyes slid to Illyra with barely concealed contempt. The council insisted, despite Kael's objections. They still believe I am the appropriate choice for queen. Her smile sharpened. And councils have a way of getting what they want. So this was her. The woman of proper bloodline. The political choice? The reason Illyra had been thrown away. You seem surprised. Seraphine stepped closer, her smile sharp enough to draw blood. Did you think you were special? That you were the only one Kael ever considered? She laughed, a crystalline sound devoid of warmth. He has a habit of hesitating when the moment requires action. The difference between us, little servant, is that I understand what power requires, and I wait. Illyra's hands curled into fists at her sides. Wait for what? For him to stop running from his throne's demands. Seraphine's gaze flickered toward Kael, and something possessive burned there. The realm needs an heir. The council grows impatient. Eventually, Kael will accept what he must. Her eyes returned to Illyra, cold and certain. And it will not be you. That is enough. Evren's voice hardened. Lady Seraphine, you forget yourself. I forget nothing. Seraphine held Illyra's gaze for one more poisonous moment before turning away with practiced grace. Enjoy your dance, servant. It is the closest you will ever get to a throne. She glided back into the crowd, leaving silence in her wake. Illyra realized she had stopped breathing. The mark on her shoulder burned with renewed fury, and across the hall, she could feel Kael's presence like a storm pressing against her skin. Illyra! Evren's hand found hers, grounding her. Look at me. She forced her eyes to his face. Do not let her poison touch you. His voice was low, urgent. Seraphine is a serpent who has spent years coiling around Valdris politics. Whatever history lies between you and Kael, she will use it as a weapon. There is no history. The lie tasted like ash. He made certain of that. Evren studied her for a long moment. Then why does he look at you like a man watching his own heart walk away? Illyra did not answer. She could not. Because at that moment the crowd parted and Kael began walking toward them. His stride was measured, his expression carved from stone, but his eyes burned with 3 years of something she was terrified to name. The Alpha King stopped 5 feet away. Lord Evren. His voice was controlled. Barely. I require a word with your dancing partner. She is not my partner. Evren did not release Illyra's hand. She is my guest, and she did not indicate any desire to speak with you. The temperature in the hall dropped. Illyra felt the shift in the air, the primal tension of 2 apex predators sizing each other up. Illyra. Kael said her name like a command and a prayer tangled together. 5 minutes, that is all I ask. Nessa's voice echoed in her memory. Let him see what he destroyed. Let him choke on it. Elira lifted her chin. You may have 5 minutes, Alpha King. She pulled her hand from Evren's grasp. After that, I return to my duties. Some of us have work to do. The flicker of pain across Kale's face was almost worth the agony of standing this close to him. Almost. Cliffhanger 8. Kale and Elira are about to speak alone for the first time in 3 years. Cliffhanger 9. Is Seraphine's mark real or fabricated? What is her true game? Cliffhanger 10. Evren clearly wants something from Elira. What is his true motive? The balcony overlooking the gardens was empty save for moonlight and ghosts. Elira stood with her back to the stone railing, arms crossed, every muscle in her body coiled tight. Kale paced before her like a caged predator, his hands flexing at his sides as if he did not know what to do with them. 3 years. 3 years of silence, and now he could not even look at her. Speak, Elira said flatly. Your 5 minutes are bleeding away. Kale stopped pacing. His jaw worked, and when he finally met her eyes, the raw emotion there nearly buckled her knees. You should not be here. Of all the things she expected, that was not it. Excuse me? Corinth. Evren. This summit. Kale stepped closer, his voice dropping. You do not understand what you have walked into. I understand perfectly. Elira held her ground despite every instinct screaming to retreat. I was cast out of Valdris with nothing. I survived however I could. If that means scrubbing floors and dancing for foreign lords, then that is what I do. Evren is not some kind lord offering charity. Kale's eyes blazed. He is a strategist. Everything he does serves a purpose. And what purpose would a disgraced servant serve? Kale's silence was damning. Tell me, Elira pressed, her voice cracking despite her efforts. What could he possibly want from someone who is nothing? The word hung between them. Nothing. The same word Kale had used to destroy her. You were never nothing. The confession seemed ripped from somewhere deep inside him. Elira, I do not. She raised her hand, stopping him cold. You do not get to rewrite history because it has become inconvenient. You rejected me. Publicly. Completely. You called me worthless in front of everyone I had ever known, and then walked away while my entire world burned. I know. Then what could you possibly have to say to me now? Kale closed the distance between them in 2 strides. He did not touch her, but he stood close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, close enough to see the shadows beneath his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. The mark, he breathed. Does it still burn? Elira's hand flew to her shoulder involuntarily. Mine does. Kyle's voice was barely audible. Every single day. Every single night. It burns for you, Elira. It has never stopped. The confession hit her like a physical blow. Then why? The question tore from her throat before she could stop it. Why did you do it? Why did you destroy us? Something closed off in Kale's expression. He stepped back, the walls slamming down so fast Elira could almost hear them. Some truths are too dangerous to speak. That is not an answer. It is the only one I can give. He turned toward the balcony doors. Stay away from Evren, Elira. Whatever he promises you, it is not what it seems. And then he was gone, leaving her alone with the moonlight and questions that burned worse than any scar. Cliffhanger 11. Kale's mark still burns for her. The bond is not dead. Cliffhanger 12. What truth is too dangerous for Kale to speak? Why did he really reject her? Cliffhanger 13. What is Evren's true purpose? Elira did not sleep that night. She lay in her narrow bed in the servants' quarters, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word Kale had spoken until they lost all meaning. Stay away from Evren. The warning echoed alongside the memory of Evren's kind eyes, his steady hands, and his words that had made her feel seen for the first time in years. At dawn, a knock came at her door. Elira opened it to find a messenger in Corinth's colors holding a sealed letter. From Lord Evren, miss. He requests your presence in the Eastern Garden at midday. She took the letter with numb fingers. The wax seal bore Ivrin's crest, a stag crowned with antlers of silver flame. Inside, the message was brief. Illyra, I know what you are running from. I know what was taken from you. Let me offer what he never could. A choice. Midday. The garden. Come alone. A choice. When had anyone ever given her a choice? Nessa appeared beside her as the messenger departed. What does it say? Lord Evren wants to meet me. Illyra folded the letter carefully. Privately. Nessa's expression flickered with something unreadable. And the Alpha King? After last night? Cale's face flashed through Illyra's mind. The pain in his eyes. The confession about his mark. The warning she did not understand. Some truths are too dangerous to speak. But Cale had spent 3 years in silence. 3 years of letting her suffer while he sat on his throne and said nothing. Whatever truths he carried, they had not been important enough to save her. Evren was offering something real, something tangible, a way forward instead of backward. The Alpha King, Illyra said slowly, made his choice 3 years ago. She tucked the letter into her pocket and began preparing for midday. Behind her, Nessa watched with worried eyes but said nothing. Some warnings, after all, could not be heard until it was too late. Cliffhanger 14. Illyra is walking into Evren's offer despite Cale's warning. Cliffhanger 15. What choice is Evren about to present? And what will it cost her? The Eastern Garden was a labyrinth of sculpted hedges and blooming nightshade, beautiful and treacherous in equal measure. Illyra found Evren waiting beside a fountain carved with wolves mid-hunt, their stone bodies frozen in eternal pursuit. He wore simple clothes today, no finery, no lordly pretense, and something about that informality made her guard waver. You came. He smiled and it reached his eyes. I was not certain you would. I almost did not. Illyra stopped a few feet away. The Alpha King warned me against you. Did he? Evren's expression remained open, unguarded. And what did he say? That you are a strategist, that everything you do serves a purpose. He is correct. Evren stepped closer. But Cale assumes all purposes are cruel. He cannot fathom that someone might simply see your worth and wish to protect it. The words landed somewhere soft inside her chest. Why would you want to protect me? You do not know me. I know enough. Evren's green eyes held hers. I know you were trained as an elite warrior and cast out without cause. I know you carry a mark that was never completed, a wound that will never fully heal. And I know that despite everything, you still rise before dawn to train, still fight, still refuse to break. He paused. That is the kind of strength I want beside me. Illyra's breath caught. Beside you? I am offering you a place in Corinth. Not as a servant, as my official consort. Evren reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box. Inside, a ring gleamed, silver with an emerald stone that matched his eyes. Say yes, and you never have to bow to anyone again. Say yes, and the woman Cale threw away becomes untouchable. The world tilted beneath Illyra's feet. Consort. To a territorial alpha. It was more than she had ever dared imagine. Her voice faltered. I need time to... She needs nothing from you. The voice cracked through the garden like thunder. Illyra spun to find Cale emerging from the hedge maze, his face carved with fury, his eyes blazing gold as his wolf pressed dangerously close to the surface. But he was not alone. Behind him came Seraphine, her smile razor-sharp, and beside her walked a cluster of nobles from every territory, their expressions ranging from shock to hungry anticipation. Apologies for the interruption, Seraphine purred. But when I heard Lord Evren was proposing to Valdris's most notorious exile, I simply had to see it for myself. She turned to the gathered crowd. Tell me, does everyone know the story? How this servant seduced our prince, tried to force a mating bond, and was cast out for her treachery? The lies hit Illyra like physical blows. That is not what happened. Her voice came out thin, fractured. Is it not? Seraphine circled her like a predator. You are an ambitious commoner who thought spreading your legs for the crown prince would elevate your station. When Kale realized your manipulation, he rejected you as you deserved. She gestured to the crowd. And now, here you are, attempting the same scheme with Lord Evren. How many alphas must you try to trap before you accept your place? Laughter rippled through the nobles. Whispers spread like wildfire. Always knew she was desperate and shameless. Imagine thinking she could... Alara felt the ground crumbling beneath her. The incomplete mark screamed with pain, with humiliation, with 3 years of agony compressed into a single moment. She looked at Kale, searching for something, anything. He stood frozen, silent, his jaw tight, his fists clenched, but he said nothing, did nothing, just like before. Alara, Evren reached for her hand. Do not touch her. Kale's voice finally broke through, low and dangerous. You have no claim here. Evren stepped between Alara and Kale. You rejected her. She is free to choose whoever she wishes. She is mine. The words exploded through the garden with the force of an alpha command. Every wolf present felt it. The primal declaration of possession that made spines straighten and wolves submit. Every wolf except Alara. She stepped around Evren, walked directly to Kyle, and met his blazing eyes with ice in her own. I am not yours, she said, her voice steady despite the tears burning behind her eyes. You made certain of that, and you just stood there again, silent, while she destroyed me. Again. She turned and walked away. This time, she did not look back. Cliffhanger 16. Kale declared Alara as his before the entire summit, but she rejected him publicly. Cliffhanger 17. Seraphine's lies have spread. Alira's reputation is destroyed across every territory. Emotional payoff 1. Alara finally confronts Kale directly for his silence and walks away on her own terms. Alara made it to the servants' quarters before her legs gave out. She collapsed against the wall, sliding to the floor, her entire body shaking with sobs she had held back for 3 years. The incomplete mark burned like someone had pressed a hot iron to her shoulder, and she clawed at it, desperate to tear it from her skin. I hate you, she whispered to the empty room. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. She did not know if she meant Kale or herself. The door burst open. Alara scrambled to her feet, expecting Nessa, expecting guards, expecting anyone but the man who actually stood there. Kale filled the doorway, chest heaving, eyes wild with something beyond fury. His wolf was so close to the surface that his features seemed to shift, bones pressing against skin, canines extending past human limits. Get out! Alara snarled. No. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. You will hear me. You will finally hear me. I have heard enough of your silence. Then hear my words. Kyle crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees before her. The Alpha King of Valdris, on his knees before a servant. Alara stopped breathing. Everything Seraphine said was a lie. Kale rasped. You know this. You live the truth. But I could not defend you without revealing something that would have put you in far greater danger. What are you talking about? Kale's hands trembled as he reached toward her, stopping just short of touching her face. The night I marked you, I saw something. When my teeth broke your skin, when our bond began to form, I saw your wolf. Alara shook her head. I do not have a wolf. I never shifted. That is why I was considered worthless. You have a wolf. Kale's voice cracked. The most powerful wolf I have ever sensed. She was there, Alara, waiting, dormant, and when I touched her through the bond, I understood what you are, what I am. You carry the bloodline of the first pack, the original wolves, the ones who walked with gods before recorded history. Kale's eyes glistened. If the council knew, if any alpha knew, you would become the most hunted woman in the realm, They would cage you, breed you, and use you to create armies of wolves with power beyond imagination. The words refused to arrange themselves into meaning. That is impossible. I wish it were. Kale finally touched her, his hands cupping her face with devastating gentleness. I rejected you to protect you. I cast you out so no one would look twice at a disgraced servant. I destroyed us so you could survive. Elira felt tears streaming down her cheeks. You should have told me. I could not risk it. Could not risk anyone reading it in your eyes, sensing it in your fear. You needed to believe you were nothing so the rest of the world would believe it too. His forehead dropped to hers. But I have watched you every day since. I have sent guards to every place you traveled, paid servants to ensure you were safe, burned myself alive with wanting you while you thought I had forgotten. Kale, I will spend the rest of my existence earning your forgiveness. His voice dropped to a whisper. I will crawl if you need me to. I will bleed if that is what it takes. But I cannot watch another man touch you. I cannot pretend the bond between us does not exist. My wolf has been dying without you, Elira. I have been dying without you. She should push him away. She should demand more answers, more proof, and more time. Instead, she did something she had promised herself she would never do again. She let herself feel hope. The mark, she breathed. You never completed it. I was afraid. The confession seemed to cost him everything. Afraid that finishing the bond would make it impossible to let you go. Afraid I would doom you by keeping you. And now? Kale pulled back enough to meet her eyes. Now I am more afraid of living another day without you than anything the world might do to us. He waited, just as he had not waited 3 years ago, just as he should have waited. He waited now. The choice was hers. Elira looked at this man who had destroyed her and protected her in equal measure, who had carried impossible secrets while she carried impossible pain. What about Seraphine? She asked. She showed me a mark. She said you started to claim her too. Kale's expression hardened. She bears no mark of mine. Whatever scar she showed you was self-inflicted or purchased from a dark practitioner. Seraphine has spent years trying to manufacture a claim she was never given. The revelation settled something in Elira's chest. Another lie exposed. Another manipulation revealed. If you ever lie to me again, she said slowly, if you ever make a choice about my life without telling me, I will put a blade through your heart myself. Something like hope flickered in Kale's amber eyes. Is that a yes? It is a chance. She gripped his tunic, pulling him closer. Do not waste it. When his lips met hers, the incomplete mark erupted with light. Cliffhanger 18. The mark is reacting. The bond is awakening. Cliffhanger 19. Elira carries the bloodline of the first pack. What does that mean for her dormant wolf? Emotional payoff, too. Kale's true reason for the rejection revealed. He was protecting her. Emotional payoff 3. The Alpha King on his knees, begging for a chance. Emotional payoff 4. Seraphine's fake mark exposed as a lie. Emotional payoff 5. Their first real kiss after 3 years of agony. The kiss was fire and healing tangled together. Elira felt the bond between them surge, the incomplete connection straining toward completion, desperate to become whole. Her wolf, the wolf she had never known existed, stirred somewhere deep inside her chest, responding to Kale's presence like a flower turning toward the sun. When they finally broke apart, both were trembling. We cannot stay here, Kale murmured against her lips. Seraphine will have sent people looking. She knows something changed between us. Let her look. Elira. He pulled back, his expression serious despite the hunger still burning in his eyes. She is more dangerous than you realize. Her family has spent generations positioning themselves for the Valdris throne. If she discovers what you truly are, she will not rest until you are destroyed. The mention of Seraphine's name was enough to cool the heat between them. Elira stepped back, her mind beginning to function again. Then what do we do? We leave. Tonight. I will take you to the northern fortress, to the place where my mother's line originated. Kale reached for her hand. There are elders there who can help you understand your bloodline, help you awaken your wolf safely. And the summit? Your duties as Alpha King? Mean nothing if I lose you again. The words landed somewhere deep in Elira's chest. She wanted to believe them. Gods. She wanted to believe everything he said. But 3 years of pain did not dissolve with a single kiss. I need time, she said carefully, to process this, to understand what I am, to decide if I can truly trust you again. Pain flickered across Kale's features, but he nodded. Whatever you need. And I want answers. All of them. No more secrets. No more decisions made on my behalf. If we do this, we do it as equals. Agreed. The door burst open for the second time that night. Evren stood in the entrance, his expression shifting from alarm to confusion to something harder as he took in the scene before him. Kale and Elira standing close together, her hand still clasped in his, the air between them thick with everything that had just passed. So, Evren's voice was carefully neutral. I see the Alpha King has decided to fight for his claim after all. Lord Evren. Elira released Kyle's hand, stepping forward. I owe you an explanation. You owe me nothing. But there was hurt beneath the composure, a flicker of genuine disappointment that made guilt twist in Elira's stomach. I offered you a choice. It seems you have made one. It is not that simple. It never is. Evren's eyes moved to Kale, and something dangerous passed between the two alphas. Treat her well, Valdris, because if you destroy her again, there will be no realm large enough to hide you from my wrath. Kale's jaw tightened, but he inclined his head. Understood. Evren held Elira's gaze for one long moment. The offer stands. If you ever need sanctuary, Corinth's doors are open to you. Always. Then he was gone, leaving Elira with a strange ache in her chest. He cares for you, Kale said quietly. He barely knows me. Sometimes that is enough. There was no jealousy in Kale's voice, only a weary acceptance. I cannot blame him. One conversation with you is enough to become captivated. Elira turned to face him. Pretty words. Truth. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I have spent 3 years watching you from afar, Elira. 3 years of reports from guards I stationed near wherever you traveled. 3 years of knowing every moment of your suffering and being unable to stop it. You had me followed? Protected. His thumb traced her cheekbone. There is a difference. Is there? I never interfered with your choices. I only ensured you survived to make them. His hand dropped. I know that is not enough. I know I took something from you that I had no right to take, but I cannot regret keeping you alive, even if you hate me for it. Elira studied his face, searching for deception and finding only exhaustion, longing, and a desperate hope that matched the flicker in her own chest. I do not hate you, she admitted. I wanted to. Gods know I tried, but the bond would not let me, and I do not think my heart would have either. Kale's eyes closed briefly. When they opened, they were bright with moisture he was clearly fighting to control. We should go, he said roughly, before Seraphine makes her next move. What about Nessa? I cannot leave without— Your friend will be brought to the northern fortress. Anyone you care about will be protected. Kale extended his hand. Do you trust me enough to take it? Elira looked at his open palm, remembering another moment. Another choice, another hand she had refused to take. This time, she reached out. The moment their skin connected, the incomplete mark flared with heat. But it was different now. Not painful, not burning, but warm, welcoming, like coming home. They moved through the castle's servant passages, avoiding the main corridors where Seraphine's spies surely watched. Kale navigated the shadows with the ease of someone who had memorized every escape route, every hidden door, and every forgotten tunnel. "You have done this before," Alira observed. "I told you I had been watching over you." His hand tightened on hers. "That required learning every inch of every place you stayed. That is either romantic or deeply unsettling. Probably both." Despite everything, Alira felt a smile tug at her lips. Fair enough. They emerged in a stable behind the castle where 2 horses waited, already saddled, attended by a man in nondescript clothing who nodded at Kale without a word. "One of yours?" Alira asked. "One of many." Kale helped her mount. "I have people everywhere. It was the only way to keep you safe from a distance." As they rode into the night, Alira felt the mark on her shoulder pulse with each hoofbeat. The bond was awakening. Her wolf was stirring. And somewhere ahead, answers waited. But so did dangers she could not yet imagine. Behind them, in the great hall of Corinth, Lady Seraphine received word that the Alpha King had fled with the servant girl. Her smile could have frozen the sun. "Perfect," she murmured. "Let them run. It only makes the hunt more satisfying." She turned to the hooded figure beside her. "Send word to the Shadow Council. Tell them we have found what they have been seeking. The bloodline of the first pack is alive." The figure bowed and vanished into the darkness, and the night grew colder. Cliffhanger 20. Seraphine has discovered the truth about Elira's bloodline and contacted the Shadow Council. Cliffhanger 21. Who is the Shadow Council? What will they do with this information? Cliffhanger 22. The bond is awakening. What will happen when it completes? Emotional payoff. 6. Evren's graceful acceptance, proving he was genuinely kind. Emotional payoff. 7. Kale's confession about watching over her for 3 years. Emotional payoff. 8. Alira admits she does not hate him and takes his hand willingly. The northern fortress rose from the mountains like a crown of black stone, ancient and imposing against the star-scattered sky. They had ridden through the night and most of the following day, stopping only to rest the horses. Alira's body ached with exhaustion, but the mark on her shoulder had not stopped pulsing since they left Corinth, growing warmer with each mile they traveled north. "The fortress was built by the first pack," Kale explained as they approached the gates. "Before the territories divided, before the bloodlines scattered. This was where our ancestors gathered to commune with the old gods. And you think I belong here? I think this is where you will discover what you truly are." The gates opened without signal, as if the fortress itself recognized their approach. Inside, torches flickered along walls carved with ancient runes, and the air hummed with a power Alira could feel vibrating in her bones. An elderly woman waited in the central courtyard, her white hair flowing to her waist, her eyes the pale silver of the moon. "Alpha King." Her voice was wind through winter branches. "You have brought her at last." "Elder Morvain." Kale bowed his head respectfully. "I had no choice. Seraphine has learned—" "I know what Seraphine has learned." Morvain's silver gaze moved to Alira, and something ancient stirred in those depths. "Come, child, let me see you." Alira dismounted and approached the elder, feeling suddenly small and uncertain. Morvain reached out with gnarled fingers and touched the incomplete mark on her shoulder. The world exploded. Light and sensation crashed through Alira's body, tearing a scream from her throat. She felt her bones shifting, her skin stretching, her very essence being reshaped by something vast and ancient and utterly beyond her control. "Do not fight it." Morvain's voice echoed from somewhere far away. "She has been sleeping for too long. Let her wake." Her wolf. Alira stopped struggling. She surrendered to the force coursing through her veins, let it carry her past the boundaries of her human form, past the limitations she had accepted all her life. And then she was something else entirely. She opened eyes that saw in spectrums she had never known existed. She breathed in scents that told stories of centuries. She felt the earth beneath massive paws, felt the moonlight singing in her fur, felt the power of 1,000 generations flowing through her blood. Magnificent. Morvaine's whisper reached her enhanced hearing. The legends were true, the bloodline of the first Alpha. Illyra turned her massive head and found Chaol staring at her with tears streaming down his face. His wolf was visible just beneath his skin, pressing against his control, desperate to meet her. But he held himself back, trembling with the effort. "Shift for her," Morvaine instructed. "Let your wolves greet each other properly." Chaol needed no further encouragement. His transformation was violent and fast, his human form exploding into a wolf nearly as large as Illyra's own. His fur was silver black, his eyes molten amber, and when he approached her, he did so with a reverence that made her heart ache. Their wolves circled each other once, twice, then pressed their foreheads together. The incomplete mark ignited. Illyra felt the bond slam into place. The connection that had been straining and reaching and bleeding for 3 years finally made whole. She felt Chaol's emotions as if they were her own, his relief, his joy, his overwhelming love, his terror of losing her again. And she felt her wolf's response. Forgiveness, acceptance, the fierce protectiveness of a mate claimed at last. When they shifted back, both naked and gasping on the cold stone of the courtyard, Illyra found herself crying. "I felt you," she whispered. "I felt everything." Chaol gathered her into his arms, his own tears falling into her hair. "As I felt you. As I have wanted to feel you for 3 endless years." Morvaine draped cloaks over their shoulders with the practiced efficiency of someone who had witnessed many such awakenings. "The bond is complete," she announced. "But you should know what this means. The first Alpha's bloodline carries more than power. It carries responsibility. The ability to command any wolf, the duty to protect all packs, and the burden of those who will seek to use you for their own purposes." Illyra pulled back from Chaol's embrace. "The Shadow Council. They have been seeking the bloodline for centuries." Morvaine's expression darkened. "And now, thanks to the Seraphine woman, they know it has awakened. They will come for you, child. It is not a matter of if, but when." Chaol's arms tightened around Illyra. "Then we will fight. You will need more than willingness to fight." Morvaine looked at Illyra with something between hope and sorrow. "You will need to embrace everything you are, including the parts that terrify you. Can you do that?" Illyra thought of the servant who had scrubbed floors and swallowed humiliation. She thought of the girl who had loved a prince who threw her away. She thought of the woman who had survived 3 years of exile with nothing but her own determination. "I have survived worse than my own power," she said. "Point me toward the enemy." Morvaine smiled, and for the first time it held warmth. "You will do." Cliffhanger 23. The Shadow Council is coming. The battle is not over. Cliffhanger 24. Illyra has the power to command any wolf. How will she use it? Emotional payoff. 9. Illyra's wolf finally awakens after a lifetime of dormancy. Emotional payoff. 10. The bond completes. Chaol and Illyra are truly mated at last. Emotional payoff. 11. Illyra embraces her power instead of fearing it. The chambers Morvaine provided were ancient and beautiful, carved into the mountain itself, warmed by hot springs that flowed through channels in the stone. Illyra stood before the fire, wrapped in the cloak Morvaine had given her, still processing everything that had happened. Her wolf lay quiet in her chest now, not dormant but resting, satisfied in a way that suggested she had finally come home. The door opened behind her. She did not need to turn to know it was Chaol. The bond sang with his presence, a constant warmth at the edge of her awareness that she was still learning to navigate. "You should rest," he said softly. "Tomorrow will bring challenges we cannot yet imagine." "And tonight?" Chaol moved closer, stopping just behind her. She could feel the heat of him, the barely restrained desire that pulsed through the bond. "Tonight is whatever you need it to be." Illyra turned to face him. In the firelight, he looked younger than his 30 years, the weight of the crown momentarily lifted from his shoulders. "I need to know this is real," she whispered. "That I will not wake tomorrow and find it was all a dream. That you will not change your mind again. Never." Kale cupped her face in his hands. "I changed my mind once to save your life, and it nearly killed us both. I will not make that mistake again. You are my mate, Elaira. My equal. My heart. Whatever comes, we face it together." "Together," she echoed, testing the word, finding she liked its weight on her tongue. "Together." When he kissed her this time, there was no desperation, no urgency born of fear. Only tenderness, reverence, a promise sealed with lips and breath, and the gentle press of bodies finding their way to each other. They moved to the bed slowly, learning each other with hands that had waited years for this moment. Kale touched her like she was something sacred, mapping every scar, every curve, every place that made her gasp or sigh. And Elaira discovered that her wolf had opinions about intimacy, that the bond amplified every sensation until she could not tell where her pleasure ended and Kale's began. When they finally joined, the world narrowed to just the two of them. The firelight painted their bodies gold and shadow. The connection between them hummed like music. And somewhere deep in the mountain, the ancient runes carved by the first pack began to glow. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweat cooling on their skin, hearts beating in synchronized rhythm. "I love you," Kale murmured into her hair. "I have loved you since you stood up from that training ground dirt with fire in your eyes. I loved you when I rejected you. I loved you every day of our separation. And I will love you until the last star burns out of the sky." Elaira pressed her lips to the mark she had left on his shoulder during their union, the visible proof of their completed bond. "I love you too," she admitted. "Even when I hated you, I loved you. I do not think I ever knew how to stop." Kyle pulled her closer, and for the first time in 3 years, Elaira slept without nightmares. Outside, the moon rose full and bright, and the wolves of the northern fortress howled in celebration. Their alpha had finally found his queen. Emotional payoff 12, mutual declarations of love, healing 3 years of pain. Emotional payoff 13, the bond fully sealed through physical and emotional union. The summons came 3 days later. The Summit of Territories had been extended at the insistence of several alphas who demanded answers regarding the Alpha King's disappearance. Seraphine had spread her poison well, painting Elaira as a sorceress who had bewitched the Valdris king, demanding she be brought before the council for judgment. "We could ignore it," Kale said, reading the formal declaration. "Stay here where we are safe. And let her narrative become truth." Elaira rose from the chair where she had been studying the ancient texts Morvain had provided. "No, I am done hiding. I am done letting others define who I am." Kale studied her for a long moment, then smiled. "Have I mentioned that I love you?" "Once or twice. You can say it again if you like." "Later." He pulled her close for a kiss that promised much more than words. "First, we have a council to destroy." They arrived at Corinth's great hall as the sun reached its zenith, flooding through the windows to illuminate the assembled alphas and nobles. Every head turned as Kale and Elaira entered together. She wore the colors of Valdris now, black and silver, with the queen's circlet resting on her brow. The completed mark on her shoulder was visible, deliberate, a declaration that required no words. Seraphine's face contorted with fury. "You dare show your face here?" She rose from her seat, pointing at Elaira. "This woman is a fraud, a manipulator who carries the bloodline of the first pack." The voice belonged to Elder Morvain, who emerged from behind Kale and Elaira with the calm authority of someone who had seen empires rise and fall. The hall erupted in murmurs. "Impossible," Lord Varen of the Eastern Territories sputtered. "That bloodline died out centuries ago." "It survived." Morvain walked to the center of the hall. "Hidden, dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken. And it has awakened in this woman, your king's true mate." Prove it, Seraphine hissed. Morvain looked at Elira. Child, show them. Elira stepped forward. She felt her wolf rise within her, eager and proud, ready to be seen at last. The transformation was instantaneous. One moment she was a woman in silk and silver. The next, she was a wolf of pure midnight. Larger than any in living memory, her eyes blazing with ancient power. And then she did something no wolf had done in 1,000 years. She spoke, not with words, but with will. A command that resonated through the bond every wolf shared, an authority that could not be denied. Kneel. Every alpha in the hall dropped to their knees. Not by choice, not by courtesy, but by compulsion. The power of the first alpha, the original command, the authority from which all pack bonds derived. Seraphine fought it. Her body trembled, her teeth gritted, sweat beading on her porcelain skin. But even she could not resist. She knelt. Elira shifted back, standing tall in the center of the hall, surrounded by kneeling wolves. I am Elira, she announced, her voice ringing clear. Maid of Chaol, Queen of Valdris, and heir to the first pack. Anyone who threatens my king, my pack, or my people will answer to me. Her eyes found Seraphine's. Is that understood? Silence. Then, one by one, the alphas bowed their heads in submission. Ivrin was the first to speak. Long live the Queen! The cries spread through the hall. Long live the Queen! Long live the Queen! Chaol moved to stand beside Elira, taking her hand, his pride radiating through the bond. And in the back of the hall, Seraphine remained kneeling, her schemes in ruins, her power shattered by the very woman she had tried to destroy. Their eyes met across the crowd. Elira smiled. Victory had never tasted so sweet. Final emotional payoff, complete vindication. The servant becomes the queen. Every enemy kneels. The woman they mocked becomes the most powerful wolf in the realm.